Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football Podcast. It's me, Joe Pisapia. That, of course, is Mike Tagliere, and it's you, and it's mock draft day. Oh, baby, we love the mock drafts here. It's the season. It's begun. We already know Scott Fishbowl representing the shirt. That has already begun, so real mocks are happening. Real drafts are happening everywhere. And we've got a great episode today and a fantastic guest as well. We're going to be doing a half-point PPR mock, of course, using our Draft Wizard software, the best in the business. And if you haven't already checked it out, please go over to Fantasy Pros. Check out the Draft Wizard. Again, it's fantasypros.com/draftwizard. And while you're at it, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/fantasypros, because now you can watch all of the podcasts, including these mocks, which you're going to want to watch our reactions to getting sniped. You're going to want to watch me and Tags making fun of each other. And of course, you're going to want to watch the picks unfold and see the board. And you can do that, but you can only do that at YouTube. So make sure you subscribe to the Fantasy Pros channel. Click that little subscribe and notifications bell. That way you know every time we get something new here. And Tags, I'm very excited about our guest because I am doing my first Guillotine League. And this is like the Guillotine League Dawn, you know, and this is very exciting for me. So Tags, I know you've talked to our guest quite a bit, and I want to tease him a little bit first before you even bring him in here to the show. But Tags, are you a fan of the Guillotine League format?
Yeah, he actually invited me into my first one. Well, him and a few other guys from the industry that we did one, and man, it's cutthroat. You basically have to, and this guest, if you want to do guillotine leagues, he's the one to talk to because Absolutely. Like he studies it, he runs these things, and the site that he runs getting better and better, made improvements this off season. But it's if you're looking for competition, guillotine leagues is really where it's at. Honestly, it's constant, and you have to evaluate so much every single week. It's so hard to keep up with sometimes, honestly, but if you do, you will win those things because like it's almost like the ones who pay the most attention are the ones that are going to be rewarded. There
you go. And of course, if you haven't figured out who our guest is by now, he's the CEO of GuillotineLeagues.com. He also hosts podcasts like Fantasy Football Weekly and Chop. He's the one, the only Paul Charchian. Paul, thank you so much for giving us your time today. And I got to ask you, like, does the guillotine lifestyle kind of just go with you all year? Like, you start out with everybody in your family on New Year's Day. By the time, you roll around to Thanksgiving and Christmas, there's only like 3 or 4 of you in the family that are allowed to get presents. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I love that format. And I would like to say that, like, in college, I just did that with girls. But it couldn't be less true. That I was the week one Chop E every time. So yeah, it never quite worked out that way in real life, unfortunately.
Well, that's what fantasy sports are for. It's for all of us who got chopped by those situations. Right. You make it up in life. But Paul, seriously, we really appreciate you joining us today and for this mock draft that we're going to be doing. But how is your off season going so far? Because I mean, this has kind of been the off season now into this all-important draft season. So how are things going for you and what's new and happening in your world?
Well, doesn't it feel like the season's kind of starting right now? Right.
Oh, I mean, for us, it never ends. So you can't go by us.
Yeah. And it's, for those of us that are in the industry, it does feel that way, but I'm sensing a real uptick in interest, and maybe it's Scott Fishbowl taking off. It's the end of basketball and hockey season. It feels like football season's kind of happening right now. And so, yeah, it feels like we're kind of in season already. And speaking of Scott Fish, he's the co-host of my radio show, Fantasy Football Weekly, and I'm really excited about what he's created here. And having worked with him now for 5 years, it's just amazing how much it's grown, and it's awfully exciting. And we're working on. We're working on, but I can't promise it yet.
I feel a tease.
It is a tease. A Scott Fishbowl Guillotine League that could be up and running as early as this week.
Holy cow.
I think our heads might explode if something like that actually happens. You know what I love most about the Fishbowl, before we get into our mock, is that nobody has an answer for it. Nobody has an answer. I get questions, Taz gets questions, everybody gets questions. What do you think I should do? I'm like, dude, we have no idea. It is every year it gets more wrinkles, more things. We're just trying to figure it all out on the fly too. And that's what I love about it. It is completely wide open. And today, again, we're going to be a little bit more traditional. We're going to try to help most folks out there with their leagues and their formats. And like we said, today is going to be a half-point PPR mock draft using our Draft Wizard software. Again, go to fantasypros.com/draftwizard to get that. There's going to be 15 million mock drafts done this year on the Draft Wizard. Make sure you're one of them because those features are incredible. And we're going to be using our multi multi-user draft software in order to get that done. So what that is, it's going to perform fun, realistic mock drafts using human opponents, and I'm use human in quotes when it comes to me and tags. Paul is a real human. And then, of course, it uses the simulations in there too, which is great. And that is now up and running officially. But before we kick things off, everybody knows I can't possibly do a mock draft without having a big bowl of Magic Spoon first, because we're all trying to get more protein in our diet, but watch our weight and watch what we're eating. The great thing about Magic Spoon cereal is got 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving, and only 140 calories per serving. It's keto-free, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, low-carb, GMO-free, but it's not taste-free. It tastes good, and that's what you want. You want something that's good for you and tastes good, and we all know that never happens. So build your own box at Magic Spoon. The available flavors you got there are cocoa, you got fruity, frosted, peanut butter, blueberry, and cinnamon. If you go to magicspoon.com/fantasypros, you can get your custom bundle of cereal and try it today. And be sure to use our promo code FantasyPros at checkout to save $5 off your order. And everything is 100% happiness guaranteed, which is something we always stand by at Fantasy Pros too. Every podcast is fun and happiness guaranteed. That's what we do. So once again, go to magicspoon.com/fantasypros. Again, that code FantasyPros, and get $5 off your order. So gentlemen, are you ready to start your engines for today's mock draft in the multi-user draft software that is the Draft Wizard?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah. And by the way, I'd never heard of Magic Spoon. I just went there. It looks great. I would get
there. You go. Look at that. Boom.
Me.
I just sold a box of Magic Spoon. Be like Paul Charchian. Get your Magic Spoon on and get ready for the mock draft. So once again, half-point PPR format on the Draft Wizard. Tags is running the draft board today because we got to give him something to do to kind of put him at a disadvantage.
Making picks isn't good enough.
No, making picks isn't good enough. So we're going to go through here. I don't know if Tags has updated his team name or not. Usually he's got a witty team
I'm not going to do
name.
it. So here's the fun fact behind that. I usually do with you and Yates, but I'm not going to do it with Charch. He's like the godfather to me in fantasy football. I've
done it now. So now I'm embarrassed because I've got a funny team name. So thanks. Way to set me up there for the
sure.
guest I've never met before.
It's all I can do.
Right,
so
sure.
The roster positions that we're going to go through, we're going to have standard, it's half PPR, quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 flex positions. It is not a super flex, 6 bench. So we're not going to do any kickers, no defense, because everybody knows we're waiting until the last rounds to draft them anyway. So we're not even going to involve that. So this is going to randomize the draft order. I'm going to click start. We're going to have 60 seconds per pick. We do not know what position we're going to get, but I can tell you that when we do these things, I have the worst luck. I am like always the third one picking. I kid you not. I've never had like a top pick. Yates, on the other hand, well, that happens all the time.
Well, I like when we're all like back to back too. That's always very amusing sometimes when it puts us all in like a little cluster together.
It's the worst because you can't talk about your picks because you're
somebody else is on the clock. Right.
Well, yeah, actually it makes it harder for me because I've got to manage everybody around talking about it. So hopefully we'll see how this all goes out. So let's see. Team 1, Team 2, 3, 4. Then we've got Tags at 5. We've got Team 6. Then me, Team 7, the complicated fellas at number 7. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and Charch is at 9. So 9, 7 for me, 9 for Charch, and 5 for Tag. So there we go. So obviously the usual suspects, CMC, Cook, Henry, Alvin Kamara off the board, and half-point PPR, Tags, I know we've had this conversation. It feels like you're always looking for the touchdown makers. That's what you really want. You want scoring first and foremost. So you're on the clock. Where are you going?
Honestly, this is a decision I'm trying to go through my rankings right now. I haven't quite narrowed it down. When I do my projections, Saquon Barkley's coming out as the number 3 running back this year. Obviously, there's some risk associated with him. I think Ezekiel Elliott's being undervalued this year. I think he's one of the safer first-round picks. But Barkley, if he stays in the field, if he stays healthy, this guy is getting 20 touches per game. So I'm not going to pass him up right here. Again, I would contemplate Ezekiel Elliott, but I feel like Saquon is just a safer pick for me right now in terms of like what I'm getting, because Tony Pollard showed that he can become a factor, and they, under the new offense last year, they started kind of moving that way to say that we're going to involve him a little bit more. They're both solid first round picks. I mean, it was between those two. I'm going to take Saquon Barkley.
All right, Ezekiel Elliott goes 6th right after that, which brings it to me. And even though the Draft Wizard's telling me Jonathan Taylor, I've done too many shows with Tags now where I physically get the shakes if I try to select Jonathan Taylor. But it doesn't matter because I have somebody on my board higher, and if you go to my rankings on Fantasy Pros, you'll see that. I am just a huge fan of Nick Chubb. The second half of the season when he came back from that injury, he was lights out. People forget that he only lost the rushing title by a few yards the year before to Derrick Henry. I understand Kareem Hunt's there. Nick Chubb is all world, touchdown maker. Let's go Cleveland. I'm going to draft Nick Chubb here with the 7 spot, and I'm very happy about this. I feel good about it. Again, first round, I like to be safe. Taylor goes next, which puts Charch on the block. This is fun because we have like one pick in between each of us, so this should be a good time. Charch, what's the board look like to you?
So, well, obviously it's extremely running back heavy, and in fact, entirely running backs to this point of the draft. Long before zero running back was ever a thing that anybody knew about, I was writing about what I call do the opposite, which was really zero running back back then. It said you don't take a running back for at least 4 rounds. Your 5th round is the first spot to take a running back in most drafts, and the particular area that applies to is the end of the first round, when the tried and true proven running backs that don't have any warts are all gone. And so for when I'm at the back end of the first round, I'm almost always, unless some runner has fallen that I really like, and that rarely happens, I'm going another direction. And for me, that's my number 1 wide receiver, Tyreek Hill.
All right, Tyreek Hill goes off the board here for Charge. And, Paul, I always like to say yards are yards, at the end of the day, especially when you get into the half-point PPR format and you pull that stuff back a little bit. Yards are yards. Get your touchdown makers. Get your guys you feel good about. And you're right, that drop-off on running back is substantial. There's definitely a tier, and then after that, there's a lot of questions. Even with some of the guys that Tags and I were looking at, there's questions there. It comes back around to you, Stephon Diggs, Akers, Eckler off the board.
Yeah, this could not have gone worse for me, by the way. I figured there were 3 guys I was absolutely targeting for my next pick, and all 3 went. I was hoping some combination of Kelsey, Cam Akers, and Austin Eckler would fall to me here, because I think they're all great values at this stage, and none of them did.
Yeah, that's how drafts typically go, though.
Isn't it, though?
But this is why the Draft Wizard is so good, because unlike a lot of other draft software, you don't have the opportunity to have this kind of competitive stuff. So look, you got 8 seconds. I know you can make your pick and we'll set you up here, but this is the whole point. You want a challenging mock draft where you're going to have to really push yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone. Yeah. And look, you got a great player here, so take us through your pick.
So I'm going to take Calvin Ridley for reasons that most of the listeners here already know, and I'm not worried that I don't have a running back to this point. Calvin Ridley's could lead the NFL in targets, and obviously has proven himself to be durable. And while I have a lot of concern about Matt Ryan and where he is at this stage of his career, I still think this is an extremely safe selection. And my philosophy is that I think it's a lot easier to lose your draft in the first 2 rounds than it is to win your draft. Yep. And I like safety in these early couple of rounds, and I can take chance. I want to put chance into my mid-round picks that don't cost me so much if they don't work out. And so you'll see me taking a lot more daring approach later on.
I live for this moment. I get to take a running back right before Tags. Yeah, that's right. Najee Harris right here. So this makes me very happy. So now we have to watch Tags kind of squirm a little bit. So I'm going to go back-to-back running backs, the opposite of where Paul's going. And this is great because we're showing you 2 different strategies here. And as you see on the Draft Wizard software, you'll see too, it shows us as we're going what our needs are. It's got so many cool wrinkles here. Tags and I just did a whole program with the guys taking us through some of the new wrinkles we have in the draft software this year on the Wizard, and it's tremendous how you can go in and out of picks, and not to mention how it kind of shows you where the value is on the board and also what other teams around you have so you can make better picks. Tags, you are up next. Mahomes goes off in between us, so you are now up.
Yeah, this one's it's tough for me because I definitely debated Joe Mixon here, but I also think that I'm going to be able to get a running back that I want coming back in the 3rd round, and I don't need to take 3 running backs to start the draft. And sure enough, that running back is on the board. So I went with DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf is a guy that came into the league, and a lot of guys in the industry were talking about him as a raw prospect, a guy that technically wasn't a route runner, and he's only gotten better every year. I love the fact that he went to the Seahawks because he got to play with Russell Wilson. And when you play with an elite quarterback, he's going to turn those things you do well into great things. And DK Metcalf has only gotten better as he's come into the league. He's the clear-cut number 1 there in Seattle. Even if they are going to throw the ball a little bit less, I don't know if their defense can support that. I really don't. That defense has gone downhill in a hurry. I also thought about A.J. Brown, who went the pick after. But so I'm happy.
I know exactly who your running back is. So spoiler alert, it's CAH, isn't it?
Yes, that's definitely happening right now. This was like, I would honestly, Edwards-Helaire, getting him in the 3rd round is a godsend. And I don't know if this is going to last. I think it is, to be fair. I think, a lot of times we'll talk about players like, oh, this guy's going to move up draft boards because people are going to catch on. No. Edwards-Helaire, so many people with the recency bias thing, they're moving him down draft boards. How often is it that we get to get a running back that was drafted in the top 8 picks the year before, and then all of a sudden it's like you're able to get him in the 3rd or sometimes 4th round, depending on how much people hate him, when nothing has changed with the scenario, the situation. He's still in the same offense. Le'Veon Bell is no longer with the team. Patrick Mahomes is still the quarterback. Andy Reid's still the coach. The offensive line was rebuilt. Exactly.
Right,
it was crazy what they did this offseason. So I am down with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's one of these running backs that you get in the 3rd or 4th round where typically people are reaching for running backs. They're trying to find just a running back that's going to get volume. You're finding a running back here that has the potential to finish as a top 5 running back in fantasy, and that's what we talk about, built-in equity. I have equity with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, get him in the 3rd round.
All right, I was going to take him if you didn't, but I knew that wasn't coming back.
You already took Najee Harris, so calm
I know.
down.
And you know what? It was worth the moment. It was worth I no regrets. Zero regrets. Swift goes in between us. I take Michael Thomas next. I'm going to take a shot here. It was between Keenan Allen, Allen Robinson, Terry McLaurin. All very useful, except that one guy just a year removed from being one of the 1-1 consideration players. I still feel like Winston's going to be the quarterback. I think that Michael Thomas is going to bounce back, still relatively young, hardworking guy, great skill set, and who knows, maybe a little bit something to prove, and I always like that with players coming back in a great value in the 3rd round. I'm going to take a shot here. Dobbins goes next. So, Charge, are we staying with more wide receivers, or is it time to break down for an RB?
Well, I would have gone, if any of the big 3 tight ends would have lasted anywhere near this long, I'd have gone there, but no dice on that option. So instead, I don't need another receiver. I will go running back here. And I am going to go for the workhorse back that Tags alluded to. I just want a guy who's going to get the ball a lot. And for me, that's going to be Chris Carson. I don't have to sweat. I don't have to sweat his role. I don't have to sweat him getting usurped by anybody. He'll get goal line carries, and I've got a very safe back in the 3rd round.
Love the pick, and this is exactly what I like to do towards the bottom of drafts, which is take 2 wide receivers and then Chris Carson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, these are kind of running backs.
Yeah.
Because to me, there's so many guys there in this 2nd tier that are high-end RB2s, but kind of safe in their role, which gives you back here after CeeDee Lamb just goes off the board, McLaurin and Sanders all in a row. Now you're at 4-4, and you're up again.
Sanders would have been my selection here because I think he's going too low. The offensive line last year for the Eagles had 5 starters miss at least half a season. And so I feel like that would have been a really nice opportunity had it worked out. It unfortunately did not. I'm going to have to make a rather hasty selection. I'm going to take Myles Gaskin with this pick.
Myles Gaskin off the board here. Remember, we have more than one flex spot too, so that enters into how we take a look at these boards. Mike Evans goes, and look, there's one running back for me that, you know, when you look at, actually, you know what? Unfortunately, I think he didn't get the pick in on time, so it was actually.
We'll pretend we'll pretend it's Myles Gaskin.
Well, who did it give me? Wait a minute, it gave me David Montgomery.
It gave him Montgomery, who was actually.
But that's all right.
That's fine. I was going to end up taking him. I can take Myles Gaskin and kind of even that out.
You guys could just swap him out.
You want to just swap that out?
We'll mentally swap.
I mentally swap him out. But you know what? I think. Again, I can only play the board now that's given to me. So even though I would have taken Montgomery, I'm going to look at Amari Cooper here as a second guy. And once again, a 1A wide receiver tandem with Michael Thomas. I really like that pairing. So if there is a little bit of still question mark regarding Michael Thomas, I don't have much questions about Dallas. And I think it's fascinating you see in the draft wizard, CeeDee Lamb going ahead of Amari Cooper, which... different boards will tell you different things. I think they're very close together. In fact, I prefer Lamb a little bit, but I'll settle for Amari Cooper. That's fine. Chris Godwin goes next. Tags. That puts you on the clock.
I hate drafting with you.
I know, I'm the worst.
You are the
Best.
absolute worst.
Have you guys found this? Like, people in your own company, you all, you talk to each other so much, and you do all these drafts together so much, you know each other so well.
Yeah.
And you
It's also just it's also tough to draft, I think, Paul, against people that put as much work in as we do. And this is what's great, because I feel like what happens is then when you go into the other drafts, it's not that other people don't put the work in, of course they do, but you just feel really prepared for I always say there's 2 things you can be: prepared and flexible. That's it. That's all you can be for a draft, because you never know what's going to happen. So Tags, who did you go ahead and take? And now you got another pick coming back to you here.
Oh, wow. All right. I went with Robert Woods. I was trying to decide between him and DJ Moore. DJ Moore I like an awful lot, but Woods felt like a safer pick. right there. And I also felt like DJ Moore might fall because sometimes he'll fall like the mid-20 wide receivers. He didn't, unfortunately. He went at 4'11". Now I'm sitting here on the board again, and I honestly, I was preparing mentally to select Lamar Jackson with this pick, but he went. So did Josh Allen.
Well, there's still Kyler Murray and Dak Prescott available if you want to go that route.
All right, I'm gonna take the running back I have. RB21 right now, and it's Travis Etienne.
That's who I was going to take. You sniped me, brother. There you go.
You just don't draft a running back in the first round and not give him touches. I do a study every year is what are rookies worth in fantasy football? And I've looked over the last, I think it's 8 or 9 years now I'm up to, and there's been one running back over that time period who's been drafted in the first round who did not get at least 198 touches. That running back was Rashad Penny, which was a terrible first round pick in the first place. Yeah. So Travis Etienne, I believe he's a lock for 200 plus touches, which means with someone like his explosiveness, I believe he can live up to RB2 standards. Getting him around low end RB2, RB3 prices, I feel pretty good about it.
I love that pick. This is the pick I was going to make. I'm going to do something here I may or may not regret, but there's a tier here for quarterbacks, and everybody knows, it's heard me talk on this show so many times. There's an elite 5 group here, and I want one of these guys, so I'm going to take Kyler Murray next year with the 5-7 pick. Again, a player who has a chance to go 1,000 yards rushing, 4,000 yards passing, and a whole lot of touchdown equity, and he controls the scoring. I like players, especially in a half-point PPR, that control the scoring on their own team, just like Josh Allen does, just like Kyler Murray does, and Lamar Jackson does as well. That means everything goes through them and filters through them. Kyle Pitts goes next, 5'8", 5'9". That's you, Charch. You're on the clock.
Yeah, now, I was going to take Kyler Murray, and that's how these things go all the time.
Well, Myles Gaskin's still available.
Yeah, oddly enough, yes. And I have a lot of regret about that pick right now. Okay, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go back to wide receiver, even though I'm really largely set at the position, but I love Brandon Ayuk, and I think he is the focal point of the at least the wide receivers there. One of the two quarterbacks will end up being functional one way or another. Lost in an amazing group of rookie wide receivers. Was a fantastic season for him last year. Gets even better in year 2.
Love that pick. Then you have coming back to you after the turn, Andrews, Odell Beckham, T. Higgins, and now you're back up for 6-4. And is he still on the board? Did he finally? No, Myles Gaskin finally went. I'm sorry, you got a second chance.
I did.
You passed the second time, so I let him slip by twice. And you still passed.
It was a bit of a panic pick. I'm not proud of that one.
Well, you didn't even pick it, and theoretically, it didn't even happen.
That's right. We'll just pretend it didn't happen.
What stays in Vegas stays in Vegas, and what stays and happens in the draft wizard stays there.
We're running low on tight ends. I feel comfortable with. I'm going to take T.J. Hawkinson, perhaps the best receiver on a team that's going to be behind all the time, and we'll see a high target load for Detroit. Sure, do I like anything else about that team in offense? Not really, but he's the best part of it, and there'll be some garbage time. He could be good for 5-6 garbage time touchdowns over the course of the season, and that'll be enough. So we'll take T.J. Hawkinson here.
All right, tight ends are gone, so forget that for me. I got my quarterback. I got 2 wideouts, 2 running backs, so I'm going to take a little roll of the dice here with a player that I just love the talent, love the situation. He's got his old college quarterback, and it's going to be his rookie season. I don't know if he's going to put up a Justin Jefferson season, but I think he's good for at least 1,000 yards and some touchdowns. I think Jamar Chase is going to be fun to watch, and I want him on my theoretical teams and my real teams. So give me Jamar Chase as my 3rd wide receiver. Will Fuller goes 6'7", 6'8". That's you, Tags.
All right, well, as we sit right now, this running back is being extremely undervalued because we talk about a lot of people reaching in the 3rd and 4th round for running backs that are kind of like that next tier, right? Mm-hmm. We know that they're not going to finish as a top 5 option. We're just looking for that workload. The one guy that's going to get that right now, again, they could still sign Adrian Peterson or something like that and totally screw this. But as of right now, if we were drafting right now and this is what we knew the rosters look like, Mike Davis is undervalued, especially like going to Arthur Smith's scheme. They're going to run the ball a lot more. Arthur Smith has ranked 30th and 31st in pass attempts over the last 2 years. And granted, he did have Derrick Henry, but he also had A.J. Brown. Right. They had Ryan Tannehill was like the most efficient quarterback in football over the last 2 years. So Mike Davis is undervalued right now. So to get him in the mid to late 6th round is just, it feels like stealing to me. And now coming back,
Boyd, Edmonds, and Landry just go off the board here in the beginning of the 7th round. Now it comes back to you for 7-5.
Yeah, this is a weird territory. I do like Dallas Goedert. these tight ends are coming off. Like to me, I feel like waiting at tight end, but I also feel like waiting at quarterback, and Russell Wilson's here, so I don't like this part of the draft. This is the part I don't like at all.
Nobody cares if you like it or not. You got to pick anyway.
That's true. No one cares. I should have named my team that. Actually,
no one cares. Nobody cares. 5 seconds, Tags. 3. Come on, baby.
I'm gonna take Dallas Goedert just because basically that was like my first instinct that I was going to go with, and he's one of those guys that I think people are overlooking. You know, despite despite being in a poor situation as the number 2 tight end the last couple of years, he's flashed at times. Dealt with an injury last year, came back. Jalen Hurts. Does he take a step forward? I believe it's the Frank Reich offense approach, like Nick Sirianni, like this whole idea of the Eagles team changing to that Frank Reich style offense again. That's where it's like the tight end has been so heavily utilized, and Zach Ertz is not going to be on this football team. If Ertz was gone already, I think Goddard would be shooting up the ranks more than he has to this point.
Surprised you even think that's what's holding his ADP back at all. I don't even think people consider it the Zach Ertz situation that much anymore. Really don't. I mean, maybe we're just giving him too much credit at this stage in his career. I'm taking a pick here that's more for the last 6-8 weeks of the season than necessarily the first. But I want this guy on my roster. It's Javonte Williams. I want my running back depth here. I want to make sure here I solidify this guy because early picks in running back for teams. Melvin Gordon's situation being a little questionable. Is he going to miss any time going in? I don't know. I also know the Melvin Gordon injury risk is a real thing the last few years. Also an older running back, and Williams to me has shown you a lot. And Denver's shown you that they want to run the football. So give me Javonte Williams. Robbie Anderson goes next. Charch was unhappy with that Javonte Williams selection.
Yeah, I was. That was my guy. I was all set up to talk about him. Goal line back with 19 touchdowns last year. Remember, Pat Shurmur gave Saquon Barkley 20 touches in his NFL debut in week 1, that rookie year, 25 the next week, 22 the next week. He's proven that he can go and will, if he's got the right rookie running back, Pat Shurmur will give that guy the ball immediately. And Melvin Gordon only had 0.2 yards over expectation last year. So I think that was a fantastic,
I don't want you to miss. Okay.
And so instead, I'm going to go Laviska Shenault, and who is potentially sitting on a breakout season with competent quarterbacking. Loved what we saw at the December part of his season last year. He was wide receiver 22 in December of last year. Gets better in year 2.
All right, so you are up again now. Damian Harris, who was a player that I liked late. Noah Fant, Logan Thomas all go off the board. So you're up now. 8-4 is the pick, Charch.
8-4 is the pick, and boy.
You sound like Tags now.
Michael Carter is going to get a ton of use. I didn't get the rookie running back I wanted, but I'll go Michael Carter here. The tons of use for a team that's actually got a pretty solid offensive line. And a vastly improved offensive line, and won't necessarily be behind losing every game like they were last year. And there's no real competition for the work. 4th round running backs don't always pan out, but I think there's enough workload here that he makes sense. And I need this is the time of the draft when I need to be rolling the dice on running backs.
2 wide receivers on the board I like a lot. They're back-to-back. The Draft Wizard says they're both equal in terms of percentage, that experts also agree that they are the best ones out there. What to do? I'm going to go with the guy who's a second year in the league instead of the rookie. So Devonta Smith, maybe he will end up on Tag's team. I don't know, but I'm going to take Jerry Jeudy instead here. It's my 4th wide receiver there, who will also be probably flex on that team. And then Smith goes right before Tags. God. Oh, the worst.
No. I legitimately
situation that could
people can actually
happen.
See that I'm the one recording the draft screen right now, and I legit had those 2 guys start, and you started talking about it. I'm like, sweet, he's going to give me Devonta Smith. I'm good with that. Like,
I knew you were good with that, and I knew either way you'd be okay. But Team 7 was not having it.
I'm on tilt. I'm on full tilt right now, boys.
Team 6, excuse me. Team 6 was like, no, screw Tags.
All right, I'm on tilt. I don't even know what's happening.
I want to do a league with you, Tags. You and me got to do a league together this year.
Just see me at an auction. Just be in an auction with me.
Oh, please put me in an auction with. Oh, yes, heaven. Let's do that.
I'm taking Corey Davis. I mean, I needed a wide receiver 3. I wanted Devonta Smith because I wanted a consistent target share, and I know he's going to get it. Jerry Jeudy is more quarterback dependent, where it's like, if Teddy Bridgewater's the quarterback for the Broncos, Jerry Jeudy might be the best receiver on that team. I think he might be a better pick than Courtland Sutton. Whereas if Drew Lock is the starter, then I think Courtland Sutton is the guy you want. So there's some question marks there. I wanted Devonta Smith. Corey Davis is the number 1 for his team. This is a team that legit, they don't have a running back that we can guarantee. Like, I like Michael Carter, but is he a guy they're going to give 15 plus carries to right out of the gate? No, Tevin Coleman's not. We talk about Tevin Coleman too much. So this team has to throw the ball. I mean, Corey Davis, I'm not.
Which is to
thrilled,
say, we barely talk about Tevin Coleman. That's to say we talk about it too much. Like we barely. Like yesterday was the first time we talked about him. I feel like ever.
It's too much.
You're up again.
That is too much.
That is
any
too much.
mention is too much.
Mention. 10 seconds here for 9-5 pick after Sermon and Parker. Sermon I was hoping would make it back, but clearly
I'm not going to get sniped again. I'm taking
I knew
Mike
you were
Williams.
Yeah.
So between Mike Williams and Corey Davis, I believe one of them can fill my wide receiver 3 slot. I actually think it's probably going to be Mike Williams when he's healthy and on the field. The reason Mike Williams has fallen as far as he is because of injury concerns. He hasn't been able to stay on the field, but a guy that has flashed 1,000 yard, 10 touchdown upside in the NFL, tied to arguably the best quarterback of his career, getting him in the 9th round, give me it every day.
All right, I'm going to go and just continue to load up on who I think is, kind of best player out there and the best offense. And Dallas is the best one out here with the remaining guys that I see. I don't love Gallup, but you know what? Also having Cooper, if it's not a Cooper day, it's probably CeeDee Lamb day every week, but maybe it's a Gallup day on those other days, and that works out. Or I go all in on the weeks where they have great matchups against bad secondaries, and I just say, go ahead, boys, go out and play and have fun. And then if there's an injury, God forbid, maybe Gallup ends up getting more, and that's the way I look at this from a roster construction standpoint. Herbert goes next, so a quarterback off the board here. Charch, that puts you up for the 9-9 selection.
All right, so I'm going to go quarterback. So I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers now, and then I'm going to back that up. And I'm getting Aaron Rodgers in the 9th round, and I have reason to believe he's a good quarterback. So I'll take him now. And if I look ahead, even if Tom Brady is my next quarterback goes, Joe Burrow is going to be there. I'm going to get some combination of Brady and Burrow, I think, in the next round. I'm only like 6 picks away. So that's going to be my safety net in case the Rodgers thing blows up. Well, Brady just went, so that didn't work out. And there we go. Okay, so Joe Burrow's still available. We'll take Joe Burrow. And so my 9th and 10th round picks, I think one way or another, I've got my good one starting quarterback that I need for this league.
There you go. And you know what? That is a fantastic strategy to throw out there for folks if, you want to get a big-time quarterback. Right now, if you're drafting early and you don't have a lot of definitive news on Rodgers yet still, take Aaron Rodgers in a single quarterback league. There's so many guys you can back him up with. Charles just rattled off a bunch of them, and there's even more you can probably consider and play matchups with or stream as well. I told everybody last year pick up this guy, and in the second half, he was pretty useful. And God forbid something happens to J.K. Dobbins, there's not a lot of other guys I think there's competition for. So give me the Gus Bus, Gus Edwards.
I love that. I love that pick.
Depth there. So thank you, my friend.
He's going to get half. He's going to get half of the carries in that offense.
Tex, have I told you how much I enjoy Charch as my new best friend?
It's such a good pick right here. I target him in all my drafts, and it's a little bit heartbreaking that I didn't end up with him. I'll be honest.
I will give you Myles Gaskin for him in a trade. Not just kidding. I don't have Myles Gaskin. All right, Tags, you got 2 picks here for 10 and 11. Who'd you take in 10, and who are you considering 11? I know you got a minute to make that 11 pick.
I feel like Gus Bus is like the new Raheem Mostert, where it's like the guys they just perform. They perform when they get the carries. It's just they don't get a whole lot of work. But he's a really good football player. I mean, unfortunately, he's not involved in the passing game. That's the only reason that I tend to. It's like I'm almost shooting for the upside, which is why.
Is anyone involved in the passing game in Baltimore some days? It's like,
we're hoping J.K. Dobbins gets at least 3 targets per game. That's what we're shooting for. But no, Tony Pollard is the pick I went with here. It's just more of just shooting for that potential upside. I don't plan on ever using Tony Pollard. He's my 5th running back on this team, but it's more about just loading my bench up with guys that could be potential league winners. So him, and then my next pick here, I am the last guy that doesn't have a quarterback, so I'm not really in a rush to take one. I'm going to take Darrell Henderson, a guy that we've talked about him quite a bit on the show. And I know I'm pretty stacked at running back right now, but at the same time, it's a position that's not bad to have depth at, especially when it comes to trading later on in the season. But again, finding potential league winners at wide receiver this late is going to be a lot harder than a running back, where it's just all you need is one injury for Tony Pollard to be an RB1. Darrell Henderson might have a bigger role than some people think right out of the gate. Just because, think about it, the Rams were a team that had a 3-headed monster last year with Malcolm Brown, with Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers, and now you take Malcolm Brown away out of that equation, unless you think Jake Funk is going to come in and take that role. It's more of like a 2-headed monster, so we could see Darrell Henderson see 10 to 12 touches per week, which is enough to be considered as like an RB3 flex most weeks. But again, if he outperforms Cam Akers, or if Akers gets injured, Darrell Henderson is a potential league winner.
I'm going to take some more running back depth here. You took Henderson. That's the guy I wanted. So I'm going to take another running back who is signed by Detroit. I still have questions about the concussion issues of DeAndre Swift, and Jamal Williams was brought in specifically because, look, he is a fringe starter kind of running back in the NFL, and if he should get a fair amount of volume if Swift misses any time, that is a huge win here this late in the draft in the 11th round. It's kind of the similar strategy of Henderson, but I prefer Henderson because I think he's going to be more useful in the offense already. But Jamal Williams has shown in the past that he can, be useful. He was with the Packers quite a bit, especially in the red zone. McKissick goes next, so obviously the 11th round is all about the hedging of running backs. So, Charch, you're up here.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the board?
Yeah, the running back situation is absolutely bleak. There's only a couple guys that I even want to roster at any stage, and I feel like if I don't grab one now, I'm in trouble. Latavius Murray's at least bye-week startable, and he's my 4th running back, so I'm still running back thin, and he's somebody that'll get pressed into action for me.
All right, you are up again. Gabriel Davis, who I hope would make it back to me, went 12-3 before that.
Yeah.
AJ Green and Jamison Crowder. It makes me feel good that we are all kind of on board with the same players. That I love, like, a good, smart consensus of people in a room that I really respect, and I think that's everybody who should be listening to this. When you hear Tags and Charge talking about the same guys here, when they like in on them, that should carry over into your drafts. 12-4, you're on the clock now. What do you see you like?
So, sometimes you do this where you take a guy who's ranked below the other guy at the same position just because you want to. And at tight end, I've already got my starting tight end in all probability, but I love Tyler Higbee as a dart throw to be a top 5 guy. When if you believe Gerald Everett's missing targets are going to go predominantly to Higbee, those two together last year equaled tight end 5. And so I love the notion of getting Tyler Higbee here, especially when I've already got TJ Hawkinson, and if lightning strikes, I could even be starting. I could be flexing Tyler Higbee.
There you go. All right, this is a tough one for me. I got a veteran and a rookie here at wide receiver I am looking at, and I think I'm going to just go with the veteran here, just looking at the way my team is structured, just get a little bit more something I believe in. Look, when John Brown's on the field, John Brown is good. I think John Brown can certainly fill a role for the Las Vegas Raiders that was vacated by Nelson Aguilar, and maybe more. So I will go ahead and take John Brown. I can't believe I haven't gotten the reach alert once during this. I'm like the king of the reach alert from the Draft Wizard. Usually it gives me that thing where it makes that weird face at me. We're like, I don't know, Joe. I think you're
what
a
are you
little
doing?
nuts.
You're
what the hell are you
killing me
making that
here.
big for? I haven't gotten it once. So I think what's happened, Tags, the Draft Wizard has slowly come around to the Joey P rankings. Maybe, just maybe. I don't know. Irv Smith goes next. I know that's Tag's favorite guy. So let's
Don't
go
do
12.
it. Don't do it.
No, I don't like Irv Smith. I said
No,
it before
good.
the whole,
George was yelling
The guy
at
in
me.
Minnesota is telling you don't do it.
Well, that says a lot right there. Go ahead, Tags.
All right, I'm looking at the pick predictor. So one of the tools in here is the pick predictor, and it tells you the percentage chance that a player is going to be gone by your next pick. Because there's a few
cool.
guys I'm considering here. But Jalen Reagor, he's someone that I liked coming out of college. Now his rookie season was not good, but the entire Eagles roster was just not good last year. Let's just hope that the new offense presents more opportunity. And him and Devontae Smith are the clear-cut 1 and 2 receivers here. If Jalen Hurts takes a step forward as a quarterback, if Reagor, he dealt with an injury last year, right at the start of the year, so it was an awkward rookie season for him. But taking him here in the 12th, I can find out what I have almost immediately and cut bait if I need to. I don't need to hold on very long. And actually, the next player I'm going to pick is another guy. This could be the number 1 receiver for his team. I actually think he's probably going to be. He probably should be. And it's Rashad Bateman.
That was the rookie I was looking at.
we talk about someone like Josh Allen, someone that was struggling, with accuracy coming into the NFL, and he's grown as a player, but Stephon Diggs took his game to the next level. Can Rashad Bateman be that player? Bateman reminds me a lot of Keenan Allen. He's not a Stephon Diggs type player, but he's still a possession style receiver over the middle of the field, which is somewhere I really think Lamar Jackson needed that. Mark Andrews is out there, but he's not playing all the snaps. So again, this is a pick with Rashad Bateman. I'm not expecting him to produce for my team. I'm not relying on him right away, but it's one of those picks where if he comes out in week 1 and gets 7-8 targets, people are going to be running to the waiver wire to snag him if he's not drafted, whereas he's on my roster. And if he gets 3 or 4 targets, I'm able to cut bait if I want someone else off the waiver wire.
All right, tight end's gotten away from me. Jonnu Smith went already. Some other robot team took him, so now I've got to figure things out. I'm just going to keep taking running back depth, and I'm going to take a guy that we talked about on yesterday's AFC preview show, and it's Salvin Ahmed, who, once again, I don't know if Miles Gaskin can carry that load. I'm not exactly sure if that can be the case. And Ahmed looked good, as Tags kind of said last year. And I thought the same thing. This guy kind of looks good when you give him a chance. I'm going to see what happens. Again, this is another pick. When you get late, you take shots. Maybe if there's an injury, all of a sudden workload opens up. If the guy doesn't perform, you cut them. This is what the late rounds are about. Charge, that puts you up on the clock at the 1309 selection.
There's just, sometimes you just fall in love with a player, even though he's never produced, and you just thinking it's all going to come together, and now it's the 13th round. So I'm taking Paris Campbell. I loved him coming out of college, and then he suffered every injury imaginable, fluke injuries. I think he's had leprosy, herpes, a really nasty case of the hiccups. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong, but he's the starting slot receiver for a functional offense, and he was a second-round talent who was a crazy athlete. So I just think I'm just going to roll the dice that he stays healthy here, and there's opportunities for him to with T.Y. Hilton fading. Michael Pittman's still got question marks. So yeah, let's try Paris Campbell. Maybe
I'm with you, Charch. By the way, Pittman went 4 rounds earlier, and I think Paris Campbell is just as good of a pick, and I think it's very possible that Campbell's the best receiver on this team.
Wow. All right. I like it. Thank you.
Hopefully the hiccups and everything else clears up too. 20 seconds left for your next pick. 1404, Charge. You're on the clock.
Right. Okay. So at this stage, I'm playing a little bit of the best player available game. And even though I've got two quarterbacks, I'm going to roll the dice on Trevor Lawrence just because I want him. I've got, not that I try to marry my quarterbacks and wide receivers, but I've got Chanot and so yeah, I think Lawrence is the next highest guy I've got listed, and I guess it's not the worst thing in the world to have 3 quarterbacks.
There you It's not. You know what? Especially one of them is Rodgers. And
Rodgers.
What if he doesn't play? Okay, you might only have 2 quarterbacks right now. Correct. I don't think that's the case. I don't think a lot of us do, but we shall see. All right, so as we had Jamie Eisenberg on a couple of weeks, he dropped the knowledge of it's greater late tight end. Well, that's where I'm at right now. I'm at the late. I can't stand Mike Gesicki. Everybody knows that. So I'm just not going to take it. And I'm sure the draft wizards are going to yell at me. I'm going to take Blake Jarwin instead. I'm going to take my guys because I'm going to stay on brand. And that's what I'm going to do. And then Mark Ingram goes next here. So Mark Ingram's still in the league, everybody, just in case you weren't sure. Mike Tagliere, you are up next at the 08 pick. Did you make your selection there?
Yeah, I'm kind of mad. I was so busy talking about everything that I didn't realize people were taking backup quarterbacks, and I lost Matthew Stafford. I waited too long, basically, is what it came down to. Charge took Paris Campbell, which was going to be my next pick.
All right.
On top of that, who else went off? Elijah Moore went
I saw Matt Ryan go, but was that you?
I took Matt Ryan because I needed a quarterback at least. Now I'm kind of screwed here.
And by the way, Matt Ryan this late. I mean, I'm really down on Matt Ryan, but this late, that's a terrific pick.
Let's see. And Blake Jarwin was the other one I had in my freaking queue. I'll just take Kirk Cousins, and I'll grab Ryan and Cousins as my last 2 picks. So it is
Cousins was in my queue, so there you go.
That doesn't make me feel better, Joe.
Oh, wow. I don't know. It sounds like I got a lot of guys' tags legs on my team.
You do.
It sounds like you're just pretending it doesn't hurt when it really does.
It burns. It's like Paris Campbell. It burns.
It burns. I heard Paris has an ointment for that, I'm pretty sure, according to Paul. All right, let's look forward here. Secondary quarterbacks left here: Fitzpatrick, Baker Mayfield. I can go that, or I can continue to play let's throw a bunch of darts at tight end and see what sticks. And my other dart's going to be Cole Kmet. You know how I feel. Love the player. Want to see him take that step forward. I think the quarterback play is already better before it's even happened this year for the Bears. So give me that selection there. That puts Charch back on the clock for 1509.
Do you remember how Wayne Gallman was oddly valuable last year?
Oh, I do.
Wasn't particularly good. Devontae Booker walks into that job, and I think Booker's at least as good as Wayne Gallman is. And as the backup behind an oft-injured Saquon Barkley, last pick of my draft, Devontae Booker. We'll give him a try.
There you have. Oh, and it's time for the grades. That does it. All right. So I don't know what your grades are, boys, but mine is A-, 90 out of 100. I've never gotten this good of a grade. The Draft Wizard, you've come around, Draft Wizard. You yelled at me. You made silly faces at me for the last, 2 months. You told me I reached. You told me that I was out of my mind. That player would have been there. But maybe, just maybe, Draft Wizard looks like it's like, you know what, Joe? Not so bad. Tags, what's your grade?
Better than yours.
Of course it is.
Of course it is. It's 94. It's 94 out of 100. I feel pretty good about it. It's a flat A. It's not an A+. I've never gotten higher than I think a 98 in here. Some people have screenshotted me saying they've gotten 99s. I don't know if we even give up.
Hey, I don't remember seeing an A- next to my name in a while, so this is a nice, this is a good feeling. Okay, so how about you, Charch? What's the grade from the Wizard?
Draft Wizard hates my draft, and it always goes this way when you don't take early running backs. They always hate your draft.
True.
And but just part of the whole philosophy of sloughing running backs is, man, every year half of the top 10 were guys who were taken
100%.
in after round 6. And it's just the nature of that position. So I've learned to take the draft grade with a little bit of a healthy dose of salt. I got 72 out of 100. That's a C- grade. And I'm sure it's not because of Tyreek Hill and Calvin Ridley.
No.
It's because I sloughed a running back, and I'm going to war with Chris Carson and Michael Carter and Myles Gaskin, and those are the guys that just aren't gonna generate many points here.
Well, but I think it also some of it might have to do with format too, and once again we talk about controlling the scoring. So in the half-point PPR, I'm still with you. I think at the bottom of drafts, double tapping wide receiver is absolutely the safe and probably the best strategy, regardless of the grade. There, I kind of agree with you on that. But to a certain degree, I think that when you're looking at these running backs in the first round, you do have to kind of consider what that risk is. So, Tags, when you're looking at those guys, I think there's certain guys that you feel comfortable with. Chubb's a guy I feel comfortable with. I know Taylor's a guy you don't. You like Zeke, but you don't like other guys. But Tags, when you strip it down to from the half point, from the full PPR to the half point PPR, in your opinion, like, is there an adjustment a little bit in your mind in terms of strategy?
It changes like the tiebreaker for some players.
Okay.
Austin Eckler obviously is someone that benefits. I have a list of players when I go through projections that'll tell me just how much they'll change when I go from PPR to a standard format. Half PPR is a good happy medium. It doesn't change too much with players for me. Obviously, guys like Gus Edwards will get a little ding. Austin Eckler gets a little move up. Guys like Tariq Cohen get a little bump. It just depends on the player. But in reality, we take good football players. That's what it comes down
Exactly.
to. And then we use that stuff as tiebreakers.
Well, Charge, I don't care what any grade says. I like your team. So let's take us through your roster here. Let's start with the quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, and you give us your take on your team and what it looks like and the bench as well.
Yeah, I thought my team turned out okay. Hold on, let me go. Oh, there we are. Where is my team? Wait, hold on, Wizard. Hold on. Let me go back to my draft analysis.
When you click on,
I moved my Wizard around, and
you got to make sure you don't lose your Wizard. You got to make sure you have the Wizard at all times. If you click on team rosters, you'll have
there
that
we go.
breakdown
Okay,
of
all
everybody there. And
So
there
I think largely my team's going to hinge on whether or not I pulled off this quarterback move. If Aaron Rodgers ends up being something close to what he is last year and ends up playing, obviously that will be a huge boon for me. No worries at wide receiver. I'm probably overstacked there, and I will probably be flexing wide receivers. Where I need Chris Carson to do what he always did,
Right.
and then I need serviceable numbers from some other running back on roster. And whether that's Gaskin or Michael Carter or Latavius Murray or maybe Devontae Booker's somehow ends up helping me out, I need help at that spot. And that's my squad. If I can get help at that second running back position, I think I'm in a really good. I'm in a good position everywhere else.
And I think in the half-point PPR, that quarterback play is a little bit more important. So if you did hit that right with Aaron Rodgers and that value, that's a big difference maker there. Tags, let's look at your team here. You did finally get a quarterback eventually. So let's take a look at the Tags roster from your point of view.
Yeah, so Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins, the quarterbacks. Running back, Saquon Barkley, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and then Travis Etienne, Mike Davis, Tony Pollard, Darrell Henderson, running back. So I'm pretty deep at running back, honestly. I could see trading some of those guys. Wide receiver, DK Metcalf, Robert Woods. Really happy about those two. Corey Davis is the 3. It's kind of like, But then I got Mike Williams, who is basically going to complement him in terms of like alternating between those guys. And then took Jalen Reagor and Rashad Bateman, guys that could potentially break out. And then going to tight end, we have Dallas Goedert. So
All right.
overall, pretty happy.
All right, very good. All right, my quarterback is Kyler Murray. My running backs are Nick Chubb, Najee Harris. My wide receivers, Michael Thomas, Amari Cooper, Jamar Chase. Of course, tight end is, tight end. So I took Jarwin and Cole Kmet with my last 2 picks. And just kind of like last year, where I took Blake Jarwin and Jonnu Smith with my last 2 picks. I was hoping somebody works out, of course, injuries kind of crushed that theory last year. So
well, you look good for about 6 weeks with Jonathan Smith. You look
it
really
did.
good.
It did, but it all fell apart, Charch. It all just, and the next thing you know,
it usually does.
It's Dalton Schultz in there, and I'm looking at Cincinnati Bengal tight ends. It was a scene, man. It was a scene. The rest of this team here, my flexes are Javonte Williams and Jerry Jeudy. Bench is Gus Edwards, Jamal Williams, Michael Gallup, John Brown, Salvin Ahmed. So I actually feel pretty good about the running back depth I was able to get. Some guys that I've seen too actually perform in the league, which is always, it's always difficult when you're evaluating rookies in redraft too. You can love the talent, love the player. You just never know how quick the adjustment's going to happen. But overall, certainly looks good. Of course, it loves tags the most because it's Fantasy Pros, and of course, tags is everything. It's number one in the scoring, 10, 5, 8. I mean, tags.
I don't make these. I don't make these.
Yeah,
no,
sure you don't. The whole draft wizard is powered. You can't see under Tags' hat. That's exactly where everything is powered. There's a reason why you never see his head, because everything in there is all just machine now. He's like,
I'm not a real person according to Twitter, so there's still that.
Well, that is all as a conversation for a whole other show. But again, the draft wizard is clearly, it's the best thing out there to get prepared for your drafts. I mean, Tags, what were some of the other takeaways for you when we sat down with the development team last week and kind of went through some of the new wrinkles too? Some of the stuff they put in there this year is really fascinating.
Well, one of the things that I liked a lot was, so we have a cheat sheet creator, and what you can do is say that you like me and Charch, or you like me and Joe, or whatever combination of analysts around the industry that you do love. You can take our rankings and basically click on 2 analysts, 3 analysts, whoever you want. You click on those, and it automatically updates your cheat sheet when they update their rankings. Right. That was cool to me, because basically in years past, I had to go through an updated cheat sheet and make sure there was no updated rankings. It automatically updates for you now, which is really cool.
Yeah, and it's free to get in there. You just need a Fantasy Pros account, but the premium version gives you some amazing cheat codes, basically, for your draft and your draft prep. You can follow Paul Charchian on Twitter, at Paul Charchian, and, of course, go check out guillotineleagues.com. Paul, I know you got a trip coming up here, but what else you got cooking here this summer?
Well, at guillotineleagues.com, we've got a new, and by the way, maybe there are some people that probably don't even know what that means to be in a guillotine league.
Oh, yeah,
so let me just quick explain it for those people who have made it to the bitter end here. You start with 18 teams, one team for every week of the season. There's no head-to-head. And every week, the low-scoring team from that week gets cut, and older players go to the waiver wire. And now it's pandemonium, because here comes a first-round pick, a second-round pick, a third-round pick, so on and so forth. And every week, the teams getting cut are better and better. And as Tags knows, because you've played this, there's so much strategy on when and how to spend your fab. Mm-hmm. Do if it's week 1 and Alvin Kamara has a bad week and that team gets cut, how much do you push in knowing you could start Alvin Kamara the rest of the way versus, well, next week it might be Ezekiel Elliott getting cut and I might want some of that money again. It's a ton of strategy. It's pandemonium. And by the middle of the season, by like last year, Mike's team was rolling into week 12. It was a freaking juggernaut, the kind that you can never, ever have in any other format, where he had just star players at every position. And he looked absolutely unbeatable. I was
beat, though.
I was going to say, but it feels like the setup was, but he got beat.
It was rough. I mean, that's what happens, though. It's fantasy football. But at the same time, it's a cool experience. It's totally different from any regular fantasy league. You should definitely, if you like competition, check it out.
Yeah, and something new and different. And that's what's so fun about it. I actually helped a friend of mine last year in the industry kind of run theirs. And I was like, why am I not in this? I don't understand. So I'm in this year. So, Paul, this was more fun than we should be allowed to have. Thank you so much for coming on with us and having, giving your time to us to do this mock draft here. We wish you safe travels on your trips coming up, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you again soon, my friend.
Yeah, let's do it. Tons of fun, guys. Thanks so much.
All right, that'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Paul Charchian and Mike Tagliere, I'm Joe Pisapia. We'll see you next time, kids.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out our featured videos. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at FantasyPros, so you can get the latest news and updates to give you the edge you need in your fantasy league.